let me fire the first one at you.
All right.
When you're looking at your team now, is the mentality different now that you're at the top of the mountain and you're the hunted, not the hunter anymore?
I don't know if the mentality is different. I think the guys have been really good from a standpoint of just taking it day by day, focusing on the process of things, not focused on the result at all, but where they're playing from a vantage point that they never played from as a group. Some of these guys have been here before, but as a group, just like this team is a new team, not new anymore. It's February. I give you that, but they're still going through a lot of first, experiences as a team, and so how to play from that position, they're learning and I think doing a pretty good job of it. We gotta improve and improve fast.
Coach, I know the last thing you look at is polls, but looking at Joe Lunardi, he's saying there's two conferences that are not Power Five that are going to get multiple teams in, the Mountain West and the AAC. The fact that Florida Atlantic went and San Diego State went to the Final Four and got to the finals, do you think that helps your case?
No, because I think every year is different. I think Joe Lunardi is the GOAT. I mean, I think his stuff is always on point. I mean, if you like just based on sheer numbers, like he doesn't miss. But I think for us, it's like the great Nick Saban says, it's rat poison. For us, we're not looking at any of that because for us, yeah, we're in a league that can get multiple bids, but our league is really good. Okay, I mean you can like Temple. I think they just gave Charlotte all they wanted over the weekend. Wichita State just gave FAU all they wanted over the weekend. Our conference tournament can be a bear. like you gonna look up in that conference tournament, just depending on how it goes, and it wouldn't be a surprise, if the championship game weren't the top two teams, But so we just got to stay focused on us, stay focused on improving, getting better. As I told the guys before and after the game on Saturday at Rice, these next few weeks are going to be about two things for us: growth and humility. Will you seek growth? Will you try to find growth in every area you can? And through the success, will you remain humble? If we do those two things, the rest will take care of itself.
Coach, my last question, thank you for your time today. The atmosphere with Charlotte was electric.
Yep.
What do you say to the students about showing up Wednesday night? What do you want to do? Talk to the camera.
As I say to the guys, hey, you didn't set a standard. You can't go back on that standard now. So SoFlo Rodeo, Herd of Thunder, the rest of the students, you've set a standard. You can't go back on that standard now. You got to bring it every night, So, and I know they will. They'll be there. We got a great student body.
Coach, speaking of polls, USF is getting 7 votes in the AP and 5 in the coaches. At the risk of feeding you rat poison, what do you think of that?
Humbled, but don't think of it much, to be honest with you. We're obviously like the American is not a mid-major conference. It's a big-time conference, but and for as well as if we lose focus and not take care of business, those same coaches that are voting for us, they'll be voting us out of it. So, man, I just remain humble, remain steadfast in the approach that has got us here, and just make sure these guys are focused on being the best they can be both on and off the court.
What is the balance between focus and headphones on versus you want national recognition for your program?
That's Chad's job.
Okay.
Chad he works the national recognition. My job, our job, I should say, the job I was hired to do, I was hired to develop and mold young men. I was hired to win basketball games. I was hired to win championships. All that is done in late February, early March, and into April. And so you know, I can hear my parents. You know, I was raised on a certain set of principles and values. You know, of you know, you finish your job. You know, as the great Jay-Z says, finish your breakfast. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, if you know what you do, and it does matter what you do in January and February. But man, we want to finish our breakfast. You know, we want to make sure that plate is clean. How do you do it? You stay focused on the task at hand. You know, and you know, again, I don't say that to, you know, give you coach speak. I really don't. Again, I think I said it to Jim in the pregame talk the other day. You know, a lot of us have sight. You know, God blessed a lot of us with sight. Some of us not. But even Stevie Wonder had a vision, right? And he had an idea of who he wanted to be and the type of music he wanted to make, and he was timeless, right? I can still listen to Hey Love today, man, and that song is still great today. My Share of Your More is still great today. He had a vision. Like, we have a vision for our program. We want this team, we want this year to be one of those timeless years that everybody looks back on and is proud of and they love, you know. But the way you don't do that by getting caught up in what happened yesterday. You do that by staying focused on what's right in front of you.
Coach, what's perhaps a thing or two that has impressed you most about your team, whatever it may be? Maybe it's something in the room or whatever.
In an era and an environment where things are geared towards the individual, right? When it's mattered most, they've remained a team. They've remained a team. You don't have the comeback wins that we have by being individuals. You have those wins from being a team. And even though they're fighting right now a little bit of, because again, with success comes notoriety, and everybody just naturally, it's human nature to want to hear your name called, right? You know, he won't say it, but like, I think I got one of the best athletic directors in the country, if not the best, right? And I'm sure, like, when certain jobs are talked about and his name is mentioned, like it feels good. But the thing I love about him is he's so focused on making, you know, the University of South Florida athletics the best athletic program in the country. That's why we have the group of head coaches we have, which is a really special group of head coaches. You know, so again, they've just remained focused on each other. They've remained focused on, you know, not getting too far ahead, staying, like, as we say in our program, being exactly where our feet are.
Anything else, Coach? Are you hearing from a lot of people saying, you know, these comebacks just stop, give them heart palpitations? I mean, that you see, I've heard it from fans. Just
Yeah.
They love the wins, but it's like, please, can you just give us a break here?
Yeah, I've had a few of those, but you know, as I would say, I'm gonna just say this. I say this humbly. I'm not complaining by any means. I'm not that coach that's like, you know. But let's remember, you know, let's not forget, you know, where this team came from. You know, let's not forget, you know, man, early on it was a battle, you know, because they were still learning each other, you know, and let's not forget, you know, when we lost to, who was it, Maine, Hofstra, UMass, I remember a lot of the same people talking about, can we stop the comeback and win? Like, can we just stop this? They wrote us off. I tell y'all all the time, I keep receipts. My wife will tell you I'm the petty king, okay? I keep receipts. I'm not going to call anybody by name, but I remember those things, and I remind the guys of it. It's a way to help keep them humble, keep them focused, because I quote a lot of people, man, but it's just, you know, the late, great street poet Nipsey Hussle. He said, you know, you live by the boos, you know, you'll die by the cheers. Stay focused, man.
Coach, gotta throw one more out to you.
All right.
Looks like a couple more gray hairs in that beard from the other night. Is it these first half deficits kind of taking a toll on that?
No, I'm just letting it grow out a little bit. My daughter, my youngest daughter, she'll say, "Daddy, let me feel." She calls it a mustache. Let me feel your mustache. well, she has to give me 5 kisses to get a feel. So I like her kisses, so I leave it on, and so that grade grows out a little bit more. This is not South Florida grade. This is,
Distinguished.
yes, this is wisdom, as my dad would say. This is wisdom.
What have you learned at your other stops, you know, from Valentine's Day on to March Madness? What do you got to do to kind of?
Are you saying from a coach's standpoint?
Yes, from a coach's standpoint. You know, when it gets to this time of the year, you're in the conversation. Is it just focus? Is that the biggest thing to get where you need to go?
I know them flowers better be there on February 14th.
Okay.
I know that much.
All right. I'm sure you took care of that already.
Yeah, I took care of that already. I know those flowers better be there, and I know that better not be the last time she gets flowers this year. You know, she'll always get some flowers right around the time we're leaving for the tournament. So I got that in the works as well. But what I've learned in those other stops, the cool thing about being at Rice the other day was my college coach, my mentor, my brother, Billy Kennedy, was there. You know, and I say it all the time. I could just hear him, man. When I was a player in college, man, the dude, he just, hey, man, chop wood, man, chop wood. That was his thing. Like, he'd come in there, just chop wood. And for the longest, I used to be like, Coach, man, like, all right. You know, I was one of them. I'm sure they look at me sometimes like, Coach, man, what are you talking about right now? You know, but after working for him, you know, at Murray State and at Texas A&M, it's the same. It's the same thing I'm saying, just a different way of, man, just stay focused on where we are right now. Stay focused on the task at hand, and that's how you get from, you know, February 14th to Selection Sunday in good shape and, you know, peaking at the right time. It's just staying focused on what really matters. And again, you know, it's not just X's and O's. It's making sure these guys are in the right state of mind, mentally, physically, spiritually, and that they're handling their business in the classroom. Because as I've said to them, you know, when we leave, y'all don't get it. You're gonna miss a lot of work, you know, and we need to be ahead of the curve now, because I want that 3.0, you know, for the semester. That'll give us a 3.0 for the year. That's just as important to me, you know, as, you know, finishing this thing off the right way.
Coach, you've mentioned Coach Kennedy quite a bit during
Yes.
the press conferences, and obviously he's meant an awful lot to you.
Yes.
Might there be something about him that resonates most in terms of the impact it's had on you, A, as a human being, and then B, as a coach?
A, as a human being, I was so fortunate to have a really cool dad, a great dad, man, that taught me so much. Yet when I got it, like, as I grew older and into the profession, you're not around your parents as much, man. Coach's wife, like who he was as a husband and a father, has such a huge impact on me as a man. Mary and his youngest daughter, AC, they traveled to every game with us. You know, like, family was so important to him. He didn't want to lose family for a profession, you know. And I've tried to be so much more intentional about my time, you know, making sure that my children know their dad, not just as a coach, a guy they see on the sideline a few times a week, but that'll come home and play basketball with his son in the living room, that'll, you know, let his daughters paint his nails, you know, for a night and then let him take it off in the morning. That'll play Barbie dolls with him, you know. So that's the impact he had on me as a human being. But then as a coach, if you guys would have known me as a young assistant or even as a player, like, my emotional maturity wasn't very good. I was very fiery. But I think we've had the success we've had here this year because, like Coach Kennedy, like, man, he was always like this. He never got too low, never got too high. And I was so glad he was there at Rice, because when we had that start to the first half that we had, and it wasn't just the fact that we didn't score, we had some breakdowns defensively, and I just happened to turn around and look at him, and it was just a reminder, man, stay smooth, stay focused, you know, and our guys responded.
Which many years ago when John Wooden was at UCLA, he always talked about, you know, you do the work in practice and then you watch the work to come out of the games, stood their arms folded a lot of times, rarely called a timeout. And your players are just in here saying, you know, what we see from you on the sidelines is much different than practice, putting the work in.
Yeah.
Is that a similar arrangement that you, in your mind, you put on all the work and the game is where it comes out and you don't, if it works well, you don't have to do much?
I'll share this story. This may have been 2 summers ago. Yeah, it was 2 summers ago. I was sitting in a gym in Georgia at McEachern High School, and I watch, you know, a lot of coaches, you know, just sideline demeanor. A guy that's been a great mentor of mine, a friend of mine, is Shaka Smart, you know, like, and so he has some things he does from a leadership standpoint, like that, I mean, are high level, you know, and he, like, his energy on the sideline is great, you know, and I think we all have to be us. But another guy that I've watched, I don't know him as well, but I watch him, was Anthony Grant at Dayton. And if you ever watch Coach Grant, like, the dude is standing over there like this, like, I mean, his facial expression very rarely changed. And going into my 4th year, I believe it was my 4th year as a head coach, I'd had a little bit of a bad rap with the officials, like talked, complained too much, things like that. So I saw Coach Grant at this gym, and I just said, Coach, I got a question for you, man. Like, I got to ask you. Like, man, your sideline demeanor is so good. Like you never, your facial expression very rarely changes. And he said something that was I wish I would have known this year 1, but you got to go through the experiences, right? But what he said was, he goes, well, if you came to practice, you see a totally different guy. He said, if I'm yelling and screaming at him during the game, that means I haven't done my job in practice, right? And he says, my job when we get to the game is to get him confidence. And, man, I was like, it was like something like Mike Tyson hit me with an uppercut. And that's the thought process that I've had. So I'm not going to compare myself to John Wooden. That would be ridiculous. But, you know, as I said before, man, I stand on the shoulders of giants, man. You know, John Thompson, Nolan Richardson, you know, John Chaney. I could go on and on and on. But when I look at guys like Coach Smart, Coach Grant, Conzo Martin, like, man, these are guys that have done it at a high level for a long time, and they've been successful. You know, so I'm never too proud to reach out and ask questions. I'm just like I told you, our guys, like, the 2 things that are going to be important: growth and humility. I'm always seeking growth. I'm always trying to find ways to grow as a coach, as a leader, as a husband, as a father. I still call Coach Kennedy to this day. I call his wife Mary. Hey, this is what I got going on. Need help. I call my brother. I call my sister. My brother's wife. She doesn't allow me to call her sister-in-law. She's my sister. Hey, you know, Valentine's Day is coming up. I need some ideas. You know, so I'm always trying to find ways to grow.
When you mentioned your brother, you had, what, 5 or 6 basketball playing brothers?
Whew. Yeah. 7 basketball playing, 1 football player, and then my sisters were really good too.
You get input, constant input, or they kind of leave you alone?
But no, they leave me alone for the most part.
Like you call or something.
They leave me alone for the most part. My brother, though, he watches every game. I don't want any of the California Golden Bear people to get mad, but he's a South Florida guy. He's a South Florida fan. And he calls me after every game. Hey, Coach, man, this is what I'm like, man, stop calling me Coach, man. But he'll you know, when he sees certain things, he'll share, and I welcome it. I welcome it. But let me just say this one last thing, because I think a lot of times this, you know, around this time of year, you hear people talking about coaches all the time. You know, man, I got a great staff. You know, I have a really, really great staff. But our staff is only as good as those dudes that go out on the court and do what we ask them to do. Like, I really enjoy coaching this group of guys because, you know, they've learned to get over themselves, as Coach Popovich has said. They've learned to get over themselves. They're over themselves. It's not about them anymore. And even though I got a lot of gray, man, they keep a guy young, man. You know, give me a hard time, joke on me all the time. So it's business between the lines, but there's balance, because as I tell them every day, the first part of what you're here, you're a student athlete, like you're not, like you're a student athlete. I take that student part very important or very seriously because they have to understand there's the job that, or there's a reason why they're here. The reason why they're here and allowed to play is because they stay in good standing as students. And I'm thankful for, all the support staff we have, Jess Larson, Joel and Rome, Lee Butler, Jackie Grant. We have great alignment here at South Florida. It's really cool. She tells me not to call her this, but she just tells me to call her by her first name. But I'm gonna respect the title, President Law, President Red Law. I get a text from her after every game almost. Thank you for what you're doing. And I say, President Law, don't thank me for what I'm supposed to do. I tell Michael Kelly that all the time. Don't thank me for what I'm supposed to do, But I appreciate it because our alignment here is really